Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Jenny Whitener. I'm the CEO of Bridge Innovate, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's program. The University of Tennessee Chattanooga ignites innovation across education and research. We have an amazing panel joining us today. You'll meet them shortly. First, we would like to meet you. If you take a moment as you're gathering with us today for our webinar to say hello in the chat. Just go into the chat, enter your name and your organization. And I would encourage you throughout today's recorded program to share conversation with your colleagues, share your insights from the panelists as you hear them. But do say hello, and we'll be getting going in just a moment. So yeah, welcome everyone. Great. So let's get going. Today, we're excited to continue our inspiration series, our Inspire series, where Bridge Innovate connects with leaders from across different industries and sectors as they bring their inspirational stories around innovation, change, and leadership. Today, we have an amazing panel from our client, our long-term client, the University of Tennessee Chattanooga. We've had the pleasure of partnering with UTC here in the region for a number of projects, everywhere from strategy to refreshing their education, general education curriculum. So it's been a pleasure to team with them and all the leadership that they are doing here in the region. Today, we have an amazing lineup on our panel. Dr. Thomas Lyons, who's the Clarence E. Harris Chair of Excellence in Entrepreneurship and Professor of Marketing and Entrepreneurship with the Gary W. Rollins College of Business. Tom, tell the audience a bit about yourself. I know you're not a Chattanooga native, so tell us a bit about your journey.
Sure, Jenny, and good morning. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you for inviting us on your program. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to share something about our entrepreneurship program with your audience. Yes, it's true. I'm not a Chattanooga native. I came here most recently about a little over 2 years ago, I guess now, from Michigan, where I was at Michigan State University. I was the director of something called the MSU Product Center. And essentially what we were was an entrepreneurial ecosystem for the food product industry throughout the state, which was a very interesting experience and one from which I learned a lot.
Great. Well, welcome to today's panel. We're excited to have you here. Also joining us today is Libby Santin. Libby is the director for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the Gary W. Rollins College of Business. Libby, what drove you to innovation?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. Just really great to be here. I've lived in Chattanooga for about 15 years and have been very much involved in the entrepreneurship community here through some of the different organizations, and have been a business owner myself. On the side, I was an adjunct professor, so all my worlds really came together in this role as the director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship.
Great, and welcome. We also have with us today on the panel, Jennifer Skjellum. She is the commercialization counselor for the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So Jennifer, tell us about this journey in engaging with faculty. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Sure. So I've been in Chattanooga for about 4 years, and like Libby, I've been involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, have a background in technology startups as well as education, and was sort of honored to be recruited for this first-time role, working with faculty, advising, supporting, and sort of shepherding them through the commercialization process.
Great. Well, welcome. And so today, without further ado, let's get started with our panel discussion. I want to thank all of our participants who are starting to engage on the chat. I'd encourage you to continue to make comments and share your insights with each other as we hear from our panelists. So let's get started. And maybe I can go to you, Tom, with our first question. Maybe just start with the fundamentals. Introduce the University of Tennessee Innovation and Entrepreneurship mission, and tell us a little bit about the launch of that program.
Of course. We have a lot of exciting things going on right now in the entrepreneurship program. And the interesting thing is that many of them have been adopted here just in the last few years. So if you look back at the history of entrepreneurship at UTC, you see that essentially for many years, what we had was a curriculum in entrepreneurship. So essentially a major that was available only to students of business, which was rather exclusive. And so just a few years ago, the UTC upper level administration decided to adopt a strategic initiative, which essentially called for spreading entrepreneurship and innovation across the campus. And that really was a game changer for the entrepreneurship program and an opportunity for us to expand our offerings and add more value for the students all across the campus, as well as faculty and staff for that matter. So we undertook a number of initiatives, and I'll just name a few here to give you an idea of what we're talking about. And I know my colleagues will go into more detail on some of these. But one of the first things we did was adopt a minor in entrepreneurship that became available to all students on campus, no matter what their major. That minor we've actively promoted to departments around campus. Notably, we've had the Department of Performing Arts, for example. Their music and their theater programs have both adopted our minor as part of their curriculum. We have also, of course, created the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the CIE. Libby will talk more about the details of that, but it started out as a virtual center and then migrated into the beautiful facility Libby's sitting in now, about 5,700 square feet in the MAP building on campus. The thing about the activities of the CIE is that they also are available to all students and faculty and staff on campus. Another thing that we did was very intentionally, and I'm happy to say successfully, pursued general education status for our introductory course in entrepreneurship. And that started this fall. So that's increased our reach. And interestingly enough, just very recently, we heard that the Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science is now going to require the freshmen coming into that college to take that course as part of their general ed requirements. So a lot of exciting things there in terms of spreading the word, so to speak, around the campus. About a year and a half ago, we partnered with the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research to create the commercialization counselor position that Jennifer holds, and she'll talk more about that. But this was a great way to reach out to faculty and to graduate student researchers on campus so that we could be of help to them in terms of commercializing their inventions. And then most recently, just this past summer, we added a new position, an entrepreneur in residence. Our first EIR is Mike Bradshaw, who many of you may know was the former CEO of Colab and also a successful entrepreneur in his own right. And Mike brings a wealth of wisdom and experience to our students in terms of counseling and mentoring and coaching, which is an important part of what we do. So a lot of exciting things going on, but as you know, when you grow like that, it can be very easy to lose sight of the forest because of all those trees. So we knew that we needed a mission going forward, and we needed a strategy for carrying out that mission. So looking at the most recent research in entrepreneurship, we found that there is a strong correlation between success in entrepreneurship and the mastery of a skill set. And that led us to adopting as our mission, helping our students to develop their skills. So that was it, simply stated. And we decided that the best strategy for carrying that mission forward was to use the process for skill development to pull together all of the aspects of our program. So we look at knowledge, which is the starting place in skill building. We look at our curriculum as providing that knowledge. Of course, to build a skill, knowledge is not enough. You need to have the opportunity to practice that knowledge. And so the CIE serves that role, providing activities that allow our students to practice what they're learning. And they do it in a co-curricular way, so it's linked together. And then another step in building a skill is to get feedback on your practice. And so through our mentoring, through our coaching, we're able to provide that. That gets our students to think differently about their practice and also think differently about what they thought they knew. And then that process is the feedback loop that reinforces skill building. Now, one thing I do want to add here is about the way in which we look at entrepreneurship skills. So I think for most people, when they think about entrepreneurship and the skills required, they think of the skills necessary to start a business. But we're really also very, very interested in the skills that are necessary to think and act like an entrepreneur within an existing organization. And to take that up another notch, we really believe that the skills of entrepreneurship are the perfect skills for leadership in this fraught time in history. Some people have called this the VUCA world, VUCA being volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. And we believe that because entrepreneurs work in an environment of uncertainty, when you learn how to be an effective entrepreneur, you can also be an effective leader in a larger sense.
That's fantastic. What I really love, Tom, is how you talked about it started at the very top. The most senior level leaders of the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga said, we are going to be in the space. And then the scope and the breadth of what you've described in terms of what the university has engaged around innovation and entrepreneurship is amazing. You are all in. And so that's very exciting. Libby, tell us a little bit more about how the students benefit from this broad vision and all this capability that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, sure. So I started in July 2018 as the first director of the center, but we had no physical space at that time. So the first 2 years that we operated, we were really virtual and had to build our brand and had to get to know people on campus and engage students in all different ways through lunch and learns and workshops and things like that. But in 2020, we finally moved in the middle of COVID right into our new space, which is fantastic. We're part of the Innovation District, which is centered at the Edney downtown. So we're right in the northeast corner of that. In the MAP building, and we have 5,700 square feet of space that includes collaboration space, mentor space, a classroom, a conference room, meeting rooms, and then our favorite space is the Hatchet Lab, which is a maker space. And so just by having this space, we've really started to be able to interact better with students from across campus, so they can come here to work on their business ideas. They can come here to prototype things in our makerspace. They can take classes here, which we're trying to teach as many entrepreneurship classes in this building as possible. So just by having that physical space, that's been super helpful. One of the ways, as we talk about our strategy and where we're trying to get our students to practice entrepreneurship, we do that through a number of different co-curricular ways. And I mentioned a few of these, but I'll kind of recap for you. We have a number of lunch and learns where we bring in local entrepreneurs or bring in entrepreneurs over Zoom to talk to our students about what they're doing, what their journey looked like, some of the challenges that they faced. And it gives the students a chance to talk and ask questions of these entrepreneurs. So that's been fantastic. We also recently started to have the 1 Million Cups meetings here, which is a Kauffman organized group. It's a meetup of entrepreneurs from our community, but we moved it to our center a couple months ago, I believe now. And that's helped us to be able to put our own students in contact with these local entrepreneurs, and so that they can each learn from each other. And we have that every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. So that's a great way to connect the community to the campus. The other thing that we do one in the fall and one in the spring, are pitch competitions. And so that's a chance for students to pitch their ideas. And the one we have in the fall is very early stage ideas. And we call that hatchet, like hatching an idea out of an egg. We are the mocks after all. And then in the spring, we have fly. And those are, we're looking for a little bit more built out ideas in those pitch competitions. And we've had great support from the community in those areas in terms of sponsorship, judging, mentoring, listening to practice pitches. And so we're trying to do as much as we can to engage with the community, but also help our students at the same time.
That's fantastic. I know that recently I had a chance to join you at one of your pitch competitions where you put together a program. And I was amazed at the number of students participating, many of them maybe not majoring in entrepreneurship, but have a passion for it. So they may be majoring in computer science, or they may be majoring in engineering, but they are all in with the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship in your pitch competition. What I love about it is how you allow students to combine that, right, and build skills in both domains. So really exciting. Anything else you tell us, Libby, before I move on to Jennifer?
I guess the other thing to say, just to comment a little bit more on our Hatchet Lab, which is our makerspace. And so that's that opened in January of this year. And as Tom mentioned, we are designed to serve the entire campus. So we are open to any student in any major, as well as faculty and staff that need support. And so we've been making great use of our makerspace by engaging faculty from across campus to incorporate a making project into their course. And so in the spring, we had a computer science professor who was teaching biometrics and had his students actually make a working fingerprint reader that connected to the National Fingerprint Database. And they created and 3D printed the housing in our Hatchet Lab. So it's fantastic to have those connections across campus and see students and faculty get excited about what we're doing over here.
That's amazing. And you know what we see in the corporate sector of many of these types of innovation labs are happening in corporations and in manufacturing centers, and you're preparing them, right? So they can do it right there at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit more about how this vision is coming to life with faculty. How is the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship engaging with them?
Great question. Well, I view the CIE, or the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, kind of the anchor or the hub on campus. And, you know, both Tom and Libby have talked about this cross-disciplinary approach to bringing students together. And I have that same view with faculty. In some instances, even though a particular department might be, you know, supporting and encouraging research, they're still in their silos. And we've seen a lot of collaborations between UTC professors and community partners that have led to successful inventions, and trying to get that, reproduce that on campus is one way that CIE has been a benefit. And that mission that Tom talked about, sort of helping students develop skills to think and act, is the way I view working with faculty. You know, the research shows that entrepreneurial mindset is fed early. And you really need an entrepreneurial orientation, not just an intention, to get to commercializing research for faculty. And having that mission focused on sort of the full kind of life cycle of entrepreneurship, without just thinking there's one outcome: starting a company, starting a business, that there are lots of outcomes that indicate success for faculty or for students along that continuum. So CIE provides a platform. I have an office here, but we also work with Tom and Libby to develop curriculum. This past summer, as you know, we worked with Bridge Innovate to do a 2-part workshop with faculty to help them get outside of the lab and think about that commercial side. They all develop research with the idea of creating something impactful, and they definitely have an end user or a purpose in mind, but they may be within a smaller space, maybe 4 walls of a lab, versus thinking, how could this innovation or this invention impact the larger world? The other way that CIE helps faculty is providing this sort of sourcing interaction from the community. And I recently read an article that showed that academics and researchers who are part of the research process that incorporates the needs of industry are actually more likely to commercialize their research. So having that connection, whether it's to the local community or the larger region, and bringing in mentors, potential partners, working with medical experts in our community, are all ways that we can help and engineer more success. And the CIE provides a way for us to make those connections, and then also reach out across campus to sort of bring full circle all the tools and skills that are needed to move from a very successful researcher who's winning a lot of grants and creating a lot of buzz, to getting that outside of the university walls.
That's amazing. And I just recall fondly the time that we spent with you and the faculty that were doing their research. And what I found really extraordinary was how the faculty's perspective began to change as they look at that depth of research that they're doing and all the advances that they're creating through that research. But when you open their minds, Jennifer, when you help them to think about the commercialization of that, I think it broadened their perspective. And I think the conversation that you helped to facilitate with them during that program really, I think, created a different sort of rich perspective for how they went back into the research phase after that workshop. So
and I actually ran into one of those participants outside the CIE this morning as he was on his way to class. And like many of us, sometimes you have to pause
Right.
an idea or research, but it was still top of mind. He'd gotten some more feedback from potential customers and was ready to go back at it once the semester was over.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. So you've got so many great things going on. Tom, how do you get this connected into the community? Is it just for the university and the faculty and the students, or like how are you guys engaging with the community here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jenny, because I think too often we can be viewed as an ivory tower and be separate from the community. And it's really important to us in the entrepreneurship program that we're not only engaged, but we're engaged in very relevant ways, that we're actually adding value for the community. And so I think we do that both collectively as an entrepreneurship program, but also individually. We bring our skill sets to various issues and challenges that the community faces. So I can give you a couple of examples, but then I'd like to hand things off to my colleagues as well to talk about some of their experiences working with the community. So for my part, one of the things that I do is sit on and within an organization called the Chattanooga Smart Community Collaborative. And that's a coming together of UTC and EPD and the Enterprise Center and CoLab and Siskin and Erlanger and a lot of the major players in Chattanooga. And we see it as our responsibility to find ways that we can all work together to make the quality of life of the citizens of Chattanooga better, whether it has to do with mobility or access to broadband, housing, you name it. We've gotten involved in it and continue to get involved in it. So that's an exciting way for me anyway to bring entrepreneurship and business to that discussion. Another thing that I do is sit as a member of the board of directors of CoLab, which of course is one of the major entrepreneurship support organizations in the community. And then the final thing I'll mention is most recently I've been working with the relatively new CEO of the Urban League of Chattanooga, who is rolling out a new minority business development program. And I'm working with her on the entrepreneurship skill building side of that. So I'm able to bring my research and my interests to solving a problem for the community. So those are just some examples, but let me just ask Libby to chime in here too, because I know she's doing a number of things that are community related.
Yeah, sure. One I'll just highlight is I sit on the board of the Future Ready Institute at Brainerd High School. So they have a entrepreneurship focus as one of their institutes there. And so for us, it's fantastic. It's a great recruiting tool to support them early on and to show them what a path through entrepreneurship might look like for them. And so since we're very well versed in teaching entrepreneurship, I think that we've been a helpful kind of asset to them as they look to build out their program. And so it's been fun to be on that board.
That's great. Good. Okay, so I'm having a question that's coming in from the audience. I just want to see if we can pause and take this. Actually, it's coming from an old friend of mine, Dan Stotts. Glad to hear you on the call today, Dan. He's the founder and managing partner of the Leadership Collaborative. And Dan has a question. He says, you know, everything you're doing at UTC is impressive. Congratulations. I'm curious, how will you measure the results or / success of your initiatives? What would be the most important long-term success metric? So you guys could respond.
I'll jump in just from so when this position was created, you know, the Vice Chancellor of Research and I, Dr. Ramani and Tom Lyons, and the previous head of marketing and entrepreneurship, you know, talked about this being, let's start something, sort of a 2 to 3 year time frame. So that's a really great question, Dan. That's something we need to revisit probably at the end of year 2. Initially, it was to get more invention disclosures, which is the first step of getting a patent or any type of commercialization pathway. So from the faculty side, it's just creating more energy, buzz, activity, awareness, sort of all of those things. And then in spring, we are launching a Fly for Researchers faculty pitch competition during the Research Dialogues Week in April with some pretty significant prizes. So, you know, I could say generically what the long-term goal is more, but right now we're in that stage of just building up, you know, that runway and creating a pipeline for success.
Great. Okay.
And if I could just piggyback on that, I think, as I mentioned before, our mission is to develop our students' skills. So one of the ways that we can measure our impact is to be able to measure those skills and positive changes in skill development. So we're currently piloting a tool. It's an assessment tool that measures skills clinically, entrepreneurship skills, that I co-developed. And we're working with several volunteer majors from entrepreneurship, students who are assigned to a coach. That coach is helping them to measure their skills using what they learn from that measurement to guide them with their curricular and co-curricular choices, as well as who in the community might be able to help them. And then follow-up measurements are made to see how they're progressing. And so at the end of the time, as they're ready to graduate, they can tell how much progress they've made on developing their skills, which is good for us also as a program, because we can learn what we're doing well and what we're not doing as well as we should be. And we have an objective outcome that we can report at the end of the day for the kind of progress that we're making.
That's fantastic. So thank you all so much. It's been my pleasure to host you today. To hear your amazing story. I just have to say again, congratulations to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, not only for having the vision, but actually walking the talk, making it come to fruition in a very broad and comprehensive way with your students, with the faculty, and with the community. So thank you again for being the catalyst for innovation and entrepreneurship in the region and beyond. We're thankful for you and all the great leadership that you bring to that momentum. So thanks so much for that. We have other programs coming up at Bridge Innovates Inspire Series. I can't wait for you guys to meet Rob Evans on October 6th, Group Think to Group Genius. Rob was the senior managing partner for Ernst & Young's Accelerated Solutions environment. He's an old friend of mine. I learned the ACE methodology from Rob. You will not want to miss his talk on Group Think to Group Genius. We also have our Foresight Scouts program coming up on October 12th. It's not too late to register. If you're anxious to understand more about automation, AI, and the acceleration of digital, and how to explore those future trends and those disruptions to make meaning out of them. Join us for a real experience, online learning experience for that program. We'd love to have you. And then many of you may remember Michael Baskin, who was chief of staff here for our mayor in Chattanooga, now at Montgomery County, but he is continuing to lead innovation and design work in government, and he'll be joining us on November 3rd. And then if you're just really inspired by student innovation, we have fourth graders all the way through high school. We have 270 plus of them competing on this year's Innovation Challenge, The Future of Home, sponsored by Shaw Industries. And you can hear all their inventions, or at least the finalist inventions, live streamed on November the 18th. So lots coming up on the Inspire series. We hope to see you again on another Bridge program soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.